When a city is developing rapidly, one of the most immediate demands is for clean water. To meet that demand, urban planners have to build massive, continuous networks of underground distribution pipes. These pipelines act as the arteries of the city. But because they are buried deep underground, we almost never think about them, unless, of course, a main breaks or a pipe leaks. Laying millions of miles of this heavy infrastructure is an intensely physical process, and it carries a massive environmental footprint that remains entirely out of sight. We cannot build truly sustainable urban spaces if we only measure the impact of what sits above the pavement. We have to account for the ecological toll of the infrastructure hidden beneath it. A recent life cycle assessment conducted in the United Arab Emirates set out to measure that exact toll, tracking the environmental impact of water pipes across a 50-year lifespan. This chart shows the 4 phases of a pipe's life: production, installation, use, and disposal. And it reveals a counterintuitive finding. The vast majority of a pipe's environmental damage happens before it ever goes into the dirt. The production phase is the ultimate bottleneck for sustainability here. Extracting raw materials, processing them, and shaping them into heavy cylinders requires an immense amount of energy and resources. To reduce that upfront impact, utility authorities in the UAE have started turning to a composite material called glass-reinforced plastic, or GRP, as an alternative to traditional plastics. To understand whether this shift actually helps solve the environmental crisis in our water networks, we need to look closely at exactly what happens on the factory floor when these pipes are built. This illustrates a GRP pipes recipe: 38% fiberglass, 35% silica sand, and 26% chemical resin. Creating the pipe doesn't involve pouring liquid plastic into a cast. Instead, it begins with a massive steel formwork mold matching the pipeline's exact target diameter. From there, the pipe goes through a winding phase. Continuous threads and chopped pieces of fiberglass roving are spooled tightly around that rotating steel mold. As the fiberglass wraps around the cylinder, silica sand is integrated directly between the layers to give the pipe its core structural stiffness. It is a precise mechanical assembly. Rather than molding a single uniform piece of plastic, the factory builds a highly engineered composite, layer by layer. Throughout those winding cycles, chemical resin is continuously applied to the mold. This resin acts as the crucial binder, locking the fiberglass and sand together. Tracking environmental impacts reveals a massive spike in human toxicity and ozone depletion tied to GRP manufacturing. Handling chemical resin releases volatile compounds and hazardous particulates. This localized exposure causes GRP to completely dominate these toxicity charts compared to conventional pipe materials. Note that these dangerous liquid and gas emissions escape into the air inside the factory and its immediate surrounding area during the assembly process. They do not leak out later while the pipe is actively operating in the ground. The composite pipe's incredible strength comes with a steep upfront cost, paid in the form of chemical hazards faced by workers on the factory floor. The main competitor to GRP in the region is high-density polyethylene, or HDPE, and unlike a wound composite, HDPE relies entirely on raw petroleum products derived from large-scale fossil fuel infrastructure. Comparing energy demands, manufacturing 1 kilometer of HDPE pipe requires extreme heat to melt the plastic, consuming nearly 25,000 kilowatt-hours of electricity. Conversely, a GRP pipe simply cures to reach full strength, requiring only 4,300 to 7,300 kilowatt-hours per kilometer. By relying on room temperature winding and chemical curing instead of extreme heat, GRP maintains remarkably low overall carbon and energy footprints. This leaves city planners facing a difficult industrial dilemma. They have to weigh immense greenhouse gas emissions from melting HDPE against the handling of volatile factory chemicals to produce GRP. So, how do decision-makers mathematically choose between an energy-intensive pipe and a chemical-intensive pipe? This flowchart demonstrates a method called endpoint analysis. It takes all the disparate data points from the study, like total kilowatt hours and the volume of organic compounds, and aggregates them into 3 final master categories: human health, ecosystems, and resources. When you apply this model to measure the entire 50-year life cycle of both materials, GRP pipes yield a significantly lower overall impact across all 3 of these master categories. The massive reduction in fossil fuel depletion and global climate emissions from GRP's low-energy manufacturing process ultimately outweighs the localized toxicity of its resin. Despite the clear chemical risks on the factory floor, the data shows that GRP is mathematically the better option for protecting global ecosystems and long-term human health. To improve this infrastructure even further, the water distribution industry needs to keep its focus squarely on the factory floor, specifically by optimizing how chemical resins are handled and captured during assembly. Cities undergoing rapid expansion no longer have to rely on legacy habits. They now have concrete life cycle data to inform their massive infrastructure procurements. Making informed choices about material types and pipe diameters can exponentially reduce the carbon footprint of an expanding underground network. By understanding the exact anatomy and the hidden ecological costs of how our infrastructure is made, we can build the arteries of sustainable cities with minimal damage to the planet today.